I'm Tyler Esselman.
And I'm Michael Osinski.
And you are listening to This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11. It's a podcast. It's a podcast where we invite someone that we know, someone we don't know, anybody who feels like they have an album that they really want to talk about, primarily because they believe the album is perfect.
So perfect, in fact. But 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
It don't cut the mustard.
You can be on our podcast if you have a song in your heart. How about that? That's our only requirement, is that you have to have a song in your heart by our estimation.
Yeah, but that song should also have come from an album.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed. Yes. 100%. We got a really great guest today. This is one of my oldest friends. This is Ariane Rinehart. Ariane is an actor, born and raised in St. Louis, and made strong by the same Lindbergh school lunches as me, Mr. Tyler Esselman. But she has called New York City home for over 11 years now, which is wild to think about. You can catch Ariane in NBC's 2013 live musical special, The Sound of Music Live, starring one Miss Carrie Underwood, as well as reruns of Chicago Fire, Law and Order SVU, and Blue Bloods. But COVID has been rough on all of us, for sure. So you can also catch her teaching Pilates in Brooklyn and Manhattan. Mostly, though, you'll find her hanging on the couch with her orange tabby cat, Nancy. Nancy's a star. I have not met Nancy in person, but Nancy's got the engagement on social media, I think. I think she's influencing, is what I think.
Well, I'm just sad she didn't make an appearance during the episode. I mean, we've had a lot of pets make appearances, and we've Ashland's cat, you know, Sam's dog. We are a pro
pet podcast as well.
Yeah,
just so we're clear. I know our public wants to know if we are pro pet, and we are pro pet.
We are,
for sure.
That's true.
We keep getting emails about it. It's like, guys, stop emailing us about asking whether we like cats or not.
Yeah, our Gmail inbox can only accommodate so many requests. All right.
Guys, come on.
Yeah.
But this is a great talk with Ariane, and this is a really excellent album that we go over. You're not going to be disappointed.
It's a fun album. This is our dance. We reached our dance quota for the season with this album alone, I think.
I think so. We're overloaded on it, and with good cause. So let's just get into it, though, shall we, Michael?
Let's shall.
Ariane Rinehart, welcome to This One Goes to 11. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. It's my first time ever on a podcast.
Really?
I'm
surprised.
Why? Why would I be on a podcast?
I just feel like at some point you're the kind of person who talks to people, and I think, oh, she could hold her own on a podcast. I think that about you.
Nice way of saying I talk a lot and I like to hear my own voice. And so how am I not been on a podcast?
I don't think that's what I said, Ariane. I don't think that's what I said at all.
That's what I said.
Also, you've got the mic cover thing too. That little round mic
pop
cover
shield,
thing.
Pop
yeah,
shield.
like which we don't even have, and we've been doing this for a year and a half now.
Yeah, but I feel like for podcast I don't know. What people didn't hear is me struggling to set up this microphone for this podcast. So I don't know any better, but I feel like you have the right microphones for this setup.
They've worked out well for us so far. I think, like, obviously, it's audio equipment is one of those things that you could always get better stuff. You know, like there's sort of like a minimum level of decent quality that I'm discovering that you want, but you can always go and get that $5,000 mic or something like that.
Oh, and boy, are you going to get those ads for it now on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. You hear that? My NSA agent.
So talking to my phone.
Do you hear me?
Better microphones, please. Yes.
Give me a deal.
Anywho, so you come to us with a very solemn task. There was no joy that was taken in this. I assume. Just a solemn task to bring before us. This One Goes to 11 Tribunal. Your best case for what you believe is a perfect album. And Ariane, can you tell us what you have brought before the tribunal today?
Full disclosure, I don't know if this is forbidden on the podcast. My number one absolute 100% best album. And like when I told my friends I was doing this, they were like, oh, so you're doing Carole King's Tapestry, right? And I was like, no, because it is the best album and somebody's already done it. So full disclosure, and this is no shade to my choice. My number one best, if I was like on a desert island, it was the only thing I could listen to, it would be Carole King's Tapestry. But this is a solid, I don't even want to call it a runner-up or like a second. It just is my other option is Body Talk by Robyn.
Body Talk, Robyn,
Nice.
2010.
Yeah,
Excellent
we gotta
album.
gay it up every
Moment.
season, and so I feel
Yeah.
really good that this is us gaying it up for season 4.
Oh my god, absolutely! This is like, you can look at her like a shot in the arm for anything. Like she really is, like, I don't know, she's electric. So super excited you brought this one to us today, and obviously 2010. That was a pivotal time for us. Oh my god. That was end of junior year into the first semester of senior year.
Context for people listening, which there are, amazing. Tyler and I went to high school together and middle school.
Big time.
But yes, Body Talk. And sorry if I'm like jumping the gun here for what you were going to say. We listened to a lot of Body Talk driving around St. Louis, Missouri.
God, yeah. It was really this and a few other albums that make me think of those cold mornings in St. Louis winters, going to Lindbergh High School. Shout out to y'all. Go Flyers, baby.
Go Flyers.
Go Flyers. And it was this sort of energy, explosive, expressive, and very emotional kind of dance music is very, very illustrative of that time for me. So I'm super glad we get the opportunity to talk about it. But here's the thing. Some of our listeners may not know who Robyn is.
Which is a shame.
You know, I'm excited for them for this to be a new discovery for them, a thing they didn't even know that they now can listen to over and over and over and over again. She
has such a huge body of work. So we thought, what better way to introduce our listeners to Robyn, if they've never heard of her, than to introduce them with everyone's favorite segment. It's the Beginner's Guide to Body Talk by Robyn. And today Michael's going to be doing it. Actually, incidentally, we both thought that we were the one that had to do the 60-second intro for this one. So we both did one, which I think is, we were both excited about this one, clearly. So, but we're going to do Michael's in the interest of time. Michael, do you feel like you are up to the task today? Do you feel like you brought the heat, my friend?
Oh, I got this one. Yeah.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Oh, yeah. We're good. We're good on
he
this
sounds
one.
confident, Ariane. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to listen to a 60-second intro and then decide how he did. You'll get to rate him and give him points, or put some kind of score on the board for his effort.
Do I make up the point system? Am I deciding?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We make up the point system together. Yeah. Okay. You get to grade him on any scale you want.
Love it.
Your heart's desire. All right, Michael, 1 minute is on the clock. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go in 3, 2, 1.
Do you know what it takes to figure out Robyn? Well, get out of the corner, call your girlfriend, and tell her you found yourself a new honey. Born Robyn Miriam Karlsson in Sweden in 1979 to two parents who ran their own independent theater, she started her career voicing characters for animated films. Her big break in America came alongside her producer's big break. Maybe you've heard of him, Max Martin. In 1997, she released Robyn Is Here, featuring the single Show Me Love, which she definitely performed on Nickelodeon's All That, starring a young Kenan Thompson. Success wouldn't last, though. After her label ditched her and she changed to an electropop sound, no other label wanted her, so she started her own, Konnichiwa Records, and she roared back in 2010, touring with Khalees in support of her new track, Dancing on My Own, and releasing Body Talk Parts 1 and 2, which eventually just became Body Talk, a collection of the best tracks from the two parts. Spawning at least 11 singles, the album made it onto all those lists we love, with the AV Club calling it hands down the best dance pop album of the year, proving that Robyn is indeed indestructible.
Dang.
Damn. That was
Whoa. Okay, that was way better than mine. That was 100 times better than mine.
That was very impressive and like right on the dot.
We've done this a few times now. We've got the 60-second thing. I know exactly the number of lines in my Google Doc to make the bio.
Oh my god,
that is a skill that is not transferable to anything else other than this exact format.
You could write you could write obituaries. You'd be really good at that. You could
I think. I mean, we'll talk about my career some other day. But I don't know if that's the one I want to change to.
We should, but that would you could play that character in a play though really well. I feel like that'd be a really
So, Robyn, when the time comes,
Anyway.
you need an obituarist. I'm the person.
Michael's the person. Ariane, you have to. How did he do? You're coming in as our Robyn expert for the day.
Well, but I didn't know that she had voiced cartoons as a youngin. So that I learned something new. I don't know how I didn't know that. So I'd give it a that was really good. An 8.5, a 9. Well, because isn't there is one, and I know I'm gonna mess this up. There was one fact and probably wouldn't fit. Was it "Hit Me Baby One More Time"? It was some Britney Spears song that was originally given to Robyn, and then Robyn was like, "Not for me," right? Wasn't that?
Well, this with this one producer of hers. This one producer of hers who I think she did some early work with him. You probably have
Max
the name,
Martin.
Was it Max Martin who then ended up producing Britney Spears?
Yeah, because he's responsible for most of Britney Spears' music. And actually, she was another thing that didn't fit was she was offered a contract with Jive Records, and she was like, no. And so, like,
so then they went with Britney, right?
Yeah, she might have had a very different career if she had gone.
If she had, with that. But she clearly has that. Okay, no, so I'm 9.5. I feel crazy for even taking anything off, but I guess there's always room.
It could be anything. It could be like a little. You could give him 18 stallions on a prairie.
Oh, that's more fun. Okay, that's
yeah. Go wild. Go buck wild.
I give you.
It could be colors. Yeah.
9 out of 10. Don't fucking tell me what to do. Which is a track from the.
Nice.
I'm getting my curse words in. I was told this is PG-13 plus, but some of those curse words are just part of the songs.
Well, yeah, you're just quoting the song. So, like, it's not like you said it. It's you.
Right.
It's like you were channeling Robyn herself.
What I'm going to say, don't effing tell me what to do. Like, this is on Kids Bop.
Yeah, no. Oh, don't get me started on Kids Bop. That's a whole other episode.
You just volunteered yourself to be on our deep dive on Kids Bop, coming soon to a podcast platform near you.
I would love that. Anyway. It's how I got songs that I felt embarrassed to ask for the password to buy that were explicit on iTunes. So I would buy the Kids Bop version, but they were so much worse.
Miles worse. Yeah.
The most recent Lizzo Kids Bop they've done for About Damn Time, they've changed the title to About That Time, and the opening line goes
doesn't actually work, guys.
It goes, it's Kids Bop o'clock, yeah, it's 6:30, like, as opposed to thick 30. It's anyway.
It's their bedtime. Time to start brushing your teeth.
Those poor Kids Bop kids.
Listen to it someday. It's really enjoyable. But anyway, we are already tangenting, which is fine. But before we dive into the album itself, that we like to ask our guests a much more broad question, which is, what, Ariane, is your relationship with music?
My relationship with music. I listen to music all the time. Like, I don't like silence in my life. Whether it's talking silence or just like room tone silence. So I almost always have music playing of some kind. I sing, so I'm a little musical theater gal. Verified. Tyler can confirm
that she is indeed a musical theater gal, much like me.
This is when we insert, if this was like a TV show, we'd insert a photo of the two of us in The Wizard of Oz.
Beauty and the Beast in 8th grade.
Oh my God, Beauty and the Beast, 8th grade. Oh God, so great. Just the most awkward time in your life to do anything.
To be wearing a beast costume in 8th grade was a bold choice for my self-esteem.
So music, big part of life, big part of my life.
Right.
But I am like, when it comes to, and I think it's the musical theater thing, the like fear that I have really bad taste in music. I am never going to be the person who volunteers to DJ in the car, in like a car trip or like at a party. And if I do, I go to the Spotify pre-made list. So if people don't like what's happening, plausible deniability. It's not me. It's this aughts party bops made by Spotify.
Yeah. Blame Kids Bop.
Exactly. The kids bopification of the music industry.
Yeah.
So I feel very self-conscious about my music taste. And then growing up, my brother I feel like a lot of, including why I even know about Robyn, is from my brother. He has very good music taste. I think we've kind of diverged a little bit as adults now that I like figured out what I like. But he would make me first mix CDs, and then he would make me, when I had my first iPod, he would make me my playlists. And he introduced me to Robyn because he was like, let me find some like cool female artists for you that I think are great. So he gave me Robyn and Oland and like a couple others.
Oland,
so,
I forgot about Oland. Was she
Oland.
Icelandic? Was she from Iceland, or was she Swedish as well? Forget. I'll have to look that one up.
Now I can't remember. One time she was at an audition I was at for like a really? TV thing, and she was there.
Oland.
And yes, and I was like, why are you in this office? What's happening? And I was like, no, it can't be her. That's so weird. Why is she here auditioning for like, I don't know, some like crime show? And I like looked at the call sheet and it said like Nana Oland, and I was like, I know too much about you. I know that you were a ballet dancer and had like a debilitating injury and thought you'd like never dance again, and here you are. But I at the end I was like, I'm such a big fan. She was like, what's that?
Anyway. Taking that opportunity. Did you? I want to give some points. 9,000 points to Ian for giving you good female artists to listen to as an older brother. That's I think that's a great role for him to play. So 9,000 points for that.
I mean, I still listen to so much Weezer and like Beck and like so many other. I still have most of my playlists are female artists, which is interesting. But at the time, yeah. So all that to say is, I still feel self-conscious about my music taste, and that like people are judging it, and that like I don't think I'm the best at finding about like searching through and like digging through and discovering new people, or like I'm never the first one. I feel like I never have my finger on the pulse, but when I find somebody I like, or like an album I like, or a song I like, it's on repeat for months.
Did you like Robyn right away when you heard her? Because I know sometimes, like, I mean, I think some of the greatest albums that I've ever heard are often a weird listen at first. It's rare that I like latch on to something that I love right away. But like, what was, I mean, was Robyn just instantly, you were just taken by?
I was instantly taken by Call Your Girlfriend. And I was just looking at the Call Your Girlfriend. I loved immediately. Stars Forever, Get Myself Together. Yeah, there were like a handful of songs that I instantly loved. And then there's some weird ones on this album, and I now like them because I think this is one of the first albums I like fully played through everything over and over. I'd be like, I'm going to listen from front to back, because I also felt like that was a thing that people who were into music did. And I'd never really like done it before. I'd picked the like 3 songs I liked and then like forgot about. And maybe that's also a musical theater thing, because there's like a bunch of really good songs, and then there's these weird like 30-second interludes that you're like, why did you spend time recording? Like, why is this here right now? Like who's bopping out to Dear Old Shiz on the Wicked soundtrack of Cast Recording?
I was thinking something bad is happening in Oz. That's exactly the song that I was thinking of. Something bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, with musical soundtracks, it's definitely harder to put those things on shuffle, because then you're just, I mean, because this upsets the story completely.
Right. Yes. And you're missing so much context.
Yes.
That those songs obviously make so much more context, make so much more sense in the context of the play itself. It's so interesting that that's like a feature of your relationship with music, that you're like kind of know yourself well enough to know that you're going to be like a few steps behind whatever's most current. I kind of feel that way with social media sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what people are using. I don't know what the most up to date thing is.
What are the youths doing these days?
What are the youths? I do feel like a little bit.
Ticks.
I do feel like a little bit of a grandpa, because I'm like,
me too.
Yeah, I don't know how to navigate it sometimes. And I'm kind of okay with that. And it sounds like you're kind of okay with that level of engagement with music too.
I actually wish I was a little more on top. I feel fine about it on social media. I'm like, my attention span is so shot and so bad. Yeah. I'm fine to not know what's happening, because I know it would break me further. Music, I wish I was more of a music, like the music version of a foodie. Like, I wish I was like, oh, have you heard this? And people are like, damn, that's such a good song. I'm going to be like, oh my God, have you heard of this? And they're like, yeah, Ariane, that came out like 6 months ago. And I'm like, cool. Well, I like it now. So
3,000 points for music version of a foodie. Michael, would you consider yourself the music version of a foodie? I think you kind of are.
I mean, I kind of am. I think the thing, I don't know, like I think of when I was in my 20s and, the brief period of time I lived in Chicago the first time and like hanging out at Reckless Records and getting
Good
stuff.
shop.
I mean, it's a great shop, but also I feel like in the same way that some people think foodies are a little bit snobby, I think in my 20s I was pretty snobby about music. So like it's sort of been like that's been my journey, is to actively shake myself of that music snobbery.
That
like because the way that you just described it, Ariane, the like, oh, do you want to hear this thing? Like just being excited about this thing you can share with people. I think I wish that were the way that I talked about music, but sometimes I think it comes across as like, oh, you haven't heard that? Oh, okay. And I don't want to be that way.
No, but that's so common. It's funny, even before we started, we were like, people who haven't heard of Robyn, I've had to actively change how and not with music, because I'm like, everyone's like, oh, I haven't heard of this. But when it comes to like TV shows or movies or books, and I saw some like ages in this, actually, honestly, the same time as when I discovered Robyn, from like Stumble Upon, probably some like viral post about, I know, bringing it back, Tumblr. Y'all. Some post about like, instead of when someone's like, I haven't read this book, being like, you haven't read it, to be like, I'm so excited that I wish I could go back to the time when I was discovering this for the first time. So I've had to like actively cultivate that and not be, because people do want to feel like they're like, I mean, it's the hipster thing. Like, I discovered this. Like, you're there now. I was there a year ago, and welcome. So I think it's That's
you
like
get 500,000 points for that bit about, I want to go back to the time before I experienced this piece of art, and then experiencing it for the first time again.
Or even my boyfriend Michael and I were talking about that in terms of, he was like, Breath of the Wild. I wish I could go back to playing Breath of the Wild for the first time, not having experienced it.
See, I'm not a big gamer either, and I think that's a medium that I'm missing out on a little bit. Like especially watching The Last of Us now. I'm like, oh man, this would be really fun to be immersed in this.
No, that game is stressful. That game is that show is stressful. That game is not. Zelda's like the best game I've ever played, and if you want to like get into it, highly recommend the like
Breath of the Wild kind of thing.
But it's like the right amount of stress where I'm like, I'm sweating and a little bit smelly, but like, okay, ultimately. Last of Us
like eating spicy food. You have to like kind of dose out the spicy food. You can't go all the way. You're not
like just
spicy
eating
food all the time.
peppercorn right away. No, that's
exactly.
You gotta ease in.
Moderation. Come on.
But all that to say is, I wish I a little bit was more, and I also think some of it's like a gendered thing. Pop is my favorite genre, and I feel like I remember in college, freshman year, like first week, talking to some guy and being like, I like alternative rock. I like legitimately didn't know what alternative rock was, like no idea. And he was like, oh, what bands? I was like, fuck, I'm being called on this thing I've heard people say who sounded really impressive. But I like pop.
So
like
great.
Pop is what I like. And I think I felt pop. It's popular. So but it's also like tends to be a little gendered a little more for women and a little more femme. So.
And I think that's a really important, because that's been one of the great things about doing this podcast, honestly, is talking about albums that are ostensibly, that can be written off in any direction, right? By like either because of snobbery or because of like whatever it might be. But like understanding the common stuff between all of these great albums we've talked about, it's like pop music just is one of the great art forms of our time. It's undeniable. I want to hear more about how you discovered this album in particular. Was it that Ian gave you this Robyn album, or what was the experience like of listening to it for the first time?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like it's so funny. I feel like I'm having so many like visual flashbacks, and like there's nothing like this time in life, like the high school time, where
it really isn't.
You remember so much weirdly. And so I feel like I can remember our little iMac, our shared iMac, that we'd have to sit down, and he would be like, he was definitely torrenting all of this. Sorry, I feel like I didn't contribute to your album sales, Robyn. Dropping them onto my like iTunes playlist and picking the like the iPod mini could only hold 100 songs or something like that, which felt like so many songs. I was like, how could I possibly have 100 songs in my life? And then I think also, so yeah, he gave me like, I think only Body Talk, part 1 and 2 at the time. Yeah, part 1 and 2. I don't think any of her like original earlier stuff. I think I burned them onto CDs to play in the car, which was also part of why I listened. It was like one of the first ones I listened to all the way through, because up until that point I'd only burned like mix tapes. And so was really picking like best songs from, this was the first time I was like, no, from front to back, we're doing the whole thing. Yeah, I specifically remember listening to my like burned CD version of both Body Talks, driving to the mall with our mutual friend Maggie, which is like what you would do in high school. Just like go to the mall. I think we would like either walk around or like try on dresses was a thing. I'm so sorry to all those sales associates who had to like put all of our freaking dresses away that we weren't buying. I'm not gonna buy those.
6,000 points for everybody working in retail.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Bless you all. Bless you all.
But yeah, so I feel like I have like very specific sense memories of driving around St. Louis and listening to this and being like, this is the best album ever. And like really, and a thing I also don't do is I don't listen to lyrics. When I listen to songs, I have to actively like choose to listen to lyrics. I'm like melodies and beats I'm down for, and I pick them up. But like I will listen to songs that I've listened to over and over and over again, and listen to it the first time with my mom, and she'll be like, oh, what an interesting lyric. And I'm like, I have never processed the word that this person was saying ever before, but like, I agree with you. And so I feel like this was also one of those that I was like actively, I was like, I'm going to listen to every, which I hadn't done since Avril Lavigne, when I bought her CD and had the little booklet that had all the words written out, and she like, I think they like crossed out where the curse words were and things like that, but made it look like punk. Yeah, I just feel like I like made a concerted effort to listen to this album.
Were you also a fan of like the I guess the sort of pop that she was sort of going up against? Like were you like a Britney fan and a Christina fan and a boy band fan at all?
I was a bit of a boy band fan. I loved NSYNC and was there for the rivalry. Like you either liked NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, and now I'm like, they're both great. They both have solid bops. But no, I feel like I was not. But similar to the like pop is for girls thing and like pink is for girls, like I wasn't like a full-on pick-me girl, but there were aspects where I'm like, blue is my favorite color. And what are you going to say about that? Blue is still my favorite color. So there was a degree of that, I think, of being like I was like not into Powerpuff Girls and like not into Britney Spears. And now, of course, I'm like, oh my God, so good. Of course I'm into Britney Spears. So no, I was not as into the like really popular girl pop happening at the time.
What about Amy Winehouse? How'd you feel about Amy?
Oh my God,
Winehouse?
I don't even think I definitely didn't know who. I feel like I didn't know who Amy Winehouse was until like college.
Really? Okay, interesting.
Maybe I probably heard Rehab
about her recently.
Yeah.
Because I think there was different slices of that, especially the femme, the kind of like femme pop ecosystem at that point, and Amy was a very interesting slice of that. But then the whole Europop kind of the Europop circle of it was something that I was very minimally aware of outside of Robyn. And like, I think what's crazy in researching her before this episode was that she's wicked famous and like ridiculously famous. And I think a lot of people, and maybe at least it was in the Midwest, just didn't know about her. And maybe that was just me also. Maybe that's a boy thing too. Like like an ostensibly straight, boy living in suburban St. Louis. Maybe there was just a little bit of an obstacle to discovery there for me.
I think it was like universal. You either like knew about her and felt real cool about the situation or didn't. And I feel like it wasn't until she like suddenly like Dancing on My Own got so big, and she was on they did the whole SNL thing where she was like recording in the like back area, like that was huge and everybody was listening to that. But I feel like that was the first time other people I knew also knew about her. And I remember at that time too, because Maggie and I loved Call Your Girlfriend, and that was like our favorite song. And I was like, it's weird that this is the one that's so popular when like obviously Call Your Girlfriend is the best, whatever. Anyway, delightful. Teenagers are horrible. What is happening with us? It's just hormones raging.
It's every teenager's a mess in their own way, right? What does Tolstoy say about happy families? You could say the same thing about teenagers and being stressed out and in one way or another.
I don't need to read another Tolstoy novel at this point.
Yeah, way to bring in Tolstoy and Robyn together as they were always destined to be.
Absolutely.
Well, there is something like and I don't even know what this means, but like in my heart, I know what this means. There's something very European about her sound. I mean, in some ways, she's not the anti-Britney, but I will say that, I mean, this album got a lot of it. If you even like the indie snobs of music dug this album, like this was considered to be, I mean, like Pitchfork loved it, you know. And I think that there's something to, I don't know if it's because she was more European, but you're right, she's super famous over there. And it took something like you know, like Dancing on My Own, or I mean the Call Your Girlfriend music video is pretty awesome. Well, we've mentioned it a bunch of times, but I think it's time for us to listen to what you have decided the standout track is from this album. So, Ariane, what have you chosen as your standout track?
Call Your Girlfriend is my standout track for Body Talk.
Excellent. Well, let's give it a listen, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
That's the end of part 1. If you access this episode via our YouTube playlist, you're about to hear our guest's standout track. If you'd like to jump ahead to part 2, you'll find a link in the description of this episode.